Good evening and welcome back to the Check Swing Podcast with myself and my man over there, my man Miguel Santa, the baseball mind extraordinaire. I was actually bragging on you today, Miguel.
Uh-oh.
I was bragging on you today at baseball practice. Coach Spinraker, and you know Coach Spinraker. I said, in a very respectful way, I said Miguel might be the biggest baseball nerd that I know. And I only said that because you said you're a baseball nerd. And I went back to when I gave you the person to guess, and you rattled off the whole lineup of the 1960s whatever Mets.
It was the 1969 New York Amazing Mets, for the record.
1969 Mets. You rattled off every position, and I'm still amazed by that to this day. To this day, but without that being said, like I welcome once again back to the Check Swing Podcast. I'd like to start off every show by doing this. Miguel, how you been, brother?
Been well, sir. Been well, sir. Starting the process of closing on a new home. We put in a bid. It was accepted. So, of course, the last week has been kind of intense. They needed bank account information, blood type, past court cases, all that good stuff. But all has been silent in the last 2 days, which is a good sign. So now, hopefully, we'll be able to close the first week of April.
Cool. Sounds like a plan. I'm sorry. I was looking at some stuff on the ground. I think I'm gonna try to go live on IG during this show. So if you're checking this out and you want to join, you can go to IG live. I'll figure it out at some point. I'm messing up. But that's awesome, man. You down there, getting ready to close on the house. Coming up on a year being down there at the end of the summer.
Yeah.
I was telling Spinraker today or yesterday, a couple days ago, that you were down there and enjoying what you do down there. You're very happy with what you're doing down there, and he was very happy for you. And he told me to tell you he said hello and he asked for you and all that good stuff.
I told him I said I appreciate him and miss him in all his quirkiness and all his does he still have the long flowing Jesus hair?
No, he actually it's not as long. He cut it, but it's not like short. It's not like real short. It's still, he can put it under a hat, but it still has some length to it, but it's not as long as it was.
So it's like Jesus. It's like Jesus as a teenager length, kind of sort of.
Teen Jesus. That sounds like the name of a TV show, Teen Jesus. No, he's that's the MacGyver right there. So no, he's still got he's got a thick beard. Not as long as it was, but it's still a thick beard. But yeah, he's back doing his thing. Came back this week, and he actually I you know what? I'll tell you this other part off air. Can't tell you on air, but let's just say, I'll just wait. I'm not going to say it on air. Anyway, with all that being said, I know I'm saying too much already. All that being said is let's get into the show. We are talking baseball is back. You got some football things going on. This is the legal tampering period, right? A lot of things going on, especially with our hometown teams here in Philadelphia. Your hometown team here in Philadelphia.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about a lot of that. Let's talk about the MLB lockout, or what was the MLB lockout. So, I always refer to you. Give us an update on that.
Lockout averted. At the end of the day, it looks like a lot of rules change. A couple of key rules changes will be coming out, especially next year. But most people know we have the universal DH, so thankfully, Justin, your favorite spot in the order is the pitcher spot. We will never see a pitcher flailing and batting 196 in a very important situation.
Can I talk about that?
Go ahead, man.
There's part of me that's glad that I'm not going to see the pitcher flailing.
Mm-hmm.
There's part of me that's glad that we're going to get a strong 9 in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a big part of me that says if you're going to be a pitcher, well, I guess they don't have to now, but if you're going to be a pitcher and you're going to be in a lineup, you need to work on your back. I guess that's out the window now.
Well, I think because I mean, if you think about like a pitcher, it's a lot of preparation. So it is a specialized position. And I know football is slightly different because you have your quarterbacks and stuff like that. But even growing up, I remember, you know, my football coach in high school was extremely old school.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody played both ways. It didn't matter if you were the all city quarterback, whatever. So everybody played both ways. But as you saw, like from the 90s to the 2000s, you started seeing, certain positions specialized, and then they started building teams to only play one way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just think it's just a sign of the times. It's been time for a minute. This time, like maybe 5-6 years ago, I would have been with you and like the eliminating strategy, whatever. But I think the real big rule changes, and if you could be so kind to post the image.
Absolutely. There you go.
Um, one of this is an actual picture of our favorite baseball player in 2022. Joey, this is the Joey Gallo defense that he said that how is he supposed to hit against this defense? Now, to the naked eye, when you look at this, he has what 90 feet of space open left to right, maybe about another another 150, 200 feet. So he basically has about what 300. My math is off. Maybe like 200 square feet of space to hit a ball. Now I get some players are like, I'm not a bunter, so I'm not gonna bunt. Okay, I have to reconfigure my entire swing to swing the opposite way. It's not necessarily true. A lot of it is just timing, just waiting a little bit longer for the
Okay.
ball to come into the zone and hit it the opposite way. But Major League Baseball has decided that this defense, as of 2023, will be illegal. So you always have to have four infielders, four
I am two on each side of the
two
base.
on each right, two on each side of them. But
I'm so against that. And I said it before, I'm so against like if as a baseball manager you want to put half of your defense on one side of the field, then you should be able to do that.
right,
And it's up to me as a batter to make something else happen. It's like someone getting double teamed in basketball. You have to figure it out. You either have to pass out of the double team, or you got to figure something out.
right,
It's not like it's not fair to have a double team. It's you say everybody's going to be on this part of the field because that's where you hit the ball.
right.
Then hit it somewhere else.
Right, and to use your analogy, this would be equivalent to making double teams illegal in the NBA.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think it's just a sign of the modern day player just saying, well, if I'm not going to be successful doing that, then I'm just not going to change. And Major League Baseball was like, okay, well, we need the money, so offense wins out at the end, so we're going to make that defense illegal. I just think you just you know I, there has to be a philosophical change.
Mhm.
I don't want to bash analytics. I'm not saying that I'm against analytics. And there's different components, so not just statistic wise, but also in the way swings are trained, especially at the high school level. It just seems like we're getting to a point where almost everything's kind of robotic or mechanical.
Let me ask
Um,
you this,
sir.
and I kind of lost my track of thought with that, but I kind of lost my track of thought that fast because I was looking at like three different things right now. Like I'm looking at this picture, right? Like honestly, like this is like ridiculous, right?
Mhm.
It's ridiculous that you can that the fact that you are moving everybody over there. It's ridiculous, but that's what you decided to do. Now let me ask you this:
Mhm.
if he is a pull ball hitter,
Right.
I'm asking you as a coach, if he is a pull ball hitter and you're facing him, and you send all your guys over to that side of the line,
Mm-hmm.
are you now? Where are you telling your pitcher to throw the ball? Inside or outside?
It's in Joey Gallo's case, it doesn't matter because he's going to try to pull it
He's going to try to
irregardless.
pull it regardless,
He's
right?
going to pull. He's going to pull it regardless. So
But
I
if
would
you're
throw
putting
it.
a shift on, are you telling your pitcher to throw so it can be hit into the shift?
I mean, yeah, in a sense because he's going to pull it, but you still got to be careful because you don't want to give him a fat pitch in the zone where he can hit it over everybody. Which is the issue. The core issue is that if they see all these players in one spot, rather than say, okay, I'm going to try to hit it the opposite way, I'm just going to try to hit it over all of them. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the issue with the mentality. So basically, you're saying, well, I can't hit with all these obstacles.
Basically, you
You're
only
basically right. You're basically
you are a one trick hitter.
right.
Terrible.
But here's the thing:
Mhm.
if more hitters hit the opposite way against this defense, guess what happens?
They
They
move
don't
them
do
over.
the shift anymore.
Right, exactly.
So and
You mentioned last week when Ryan and I went to a baseball game, they had the shift on Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper hit the other way. And essentially on that hit, end up getting the third base. So just think about that. Like,
right, and
I just like if you feel like you're going to put your players in a dumb position, then you should have that. You should have the freedom to do so.
yeah, I remember having this. I do love where I'm coaching at now because we do talk about analytics in some respects. But like for instance, the other night we had our practice with our 14U team, and we went over bunt defense, something that we really haven't done, or not say that you and I haven't done, but it hasn't been something that is what. I'm trying to be careful here, but it hasn't been emphasized. Like us bunting as a team and us defending against the bunt. You know what I mean? And we talk strategy and how sometimes listen, if it's a close ball game late in the later innings and we're trying to win, first and second nobody out, we're bunting them over.
Right. Sorry.
Versus the other mentality was, well, just hit the ball hard and something will happen. And it's like I get that, but there are times where you have to hit behind the run. Then we actually did hitting drills where it's like, all right, first and second, hit it the opposite way. We're trying to at least move the runners and trying to get the players to understand that even if they hit a ground ball the opposite way and a runner advances to the next base, even though they're out, you are successful. The
Right.
game now doesn't. Analytics takes out bunts, steals, moving runners over. Anything that's designated as an out, analytics says that's bad. Anything that creates the chance of an out, like a stolen base, is poo pooed. You know what I mean? It's horrible in
It's
analytics.
frowned upon.
Right.
You make an interesting point. Like I've come across many people in my coaching journey that feel like bunting, and I'm going to use a term that one coach in particular that I used to coach with said, bunting is for wussies. And he never, there was a day where, let me just put it like this. There was a day where I took over for him at his baseball practice. He had been drinking and it was obvious. Like he was, this is funny, real quick story. So I show up to the baseball practice and they're out there practicing. And I got to walk across this long field to get to the practice. And I'm looking and I'm like, does this guy not have any shoes on? He had been, whatever he was doing, fishing or whatever, he didn't have any shoes on it. He ended up leaving the practice because he had been drinking. And I could smell the beer on him. He was fishing that day, whatever. I took over and I was like, all right, we're going to bunt. And they were like, they never practiced bunting
Yeah.
with him. Never.
Yeah.
And he said because bunting is for wussies. So in turn, they never practiced bunt defenses.
Right.
The facility itself did, but
Mhm.
this team in particular never practiced bunt defenses. So you could beat them with a bunt all day
Right.
because they're probably never expecting it.
I remember working with another coach. I think last year, just helping out, and I remember you know, during a game there was a situation. It was in the later innings, and it was actually the same situation, first and second, like less than one out, and the runner was, the batter bunted, moved the runners over, and I remember this one coach, younger guy, he just lost his mind. He came up beside me. He's like, "Why would anybody bunt in that situation?" And then I was like, "Well, it's less than one out, and it's late in the game, trying to generate some runs." And he's like, "How is a bunt gonna get that guy recruited in college?" I was like, "But the bunt was successful." He's like, "Yeah, I know it was, but so what? You in that situation, you got to lock and load and hit it out." Next batter hit a 2 run single just out of the reach of
Because of the bunt.
because of the bunt.
Hmm.
Um, but that I was just enamored in the fact that that coach he literally lost his mind, and
Really?
then kind of yelled back to the bench like, "I'm teaching you guys to be men, and in that situation you're gonna lock and load." And I'm like, dude, like he set up the other guy who was probably a better hitter anyway to bring in those runs. We wound up winning. I mean, we wound up losing by 1 run
Mm.
because the rest of the game we were locked and loaded, and we had a very similar situation. He's like, we're gonna lock and load, and then he even said, "I'd rather you strike out than ground out, anything like that," and it just blew my mind away.
So I would like to ask him, how is that going to get somebody recruited into college?
Hello,
Is
and
it
he was,
striking out? I
and
never, I've never in my entire life or coaching career, my playing career or coaching career, heard a coach say, "Oh, I like the way he grounded out. Oh, I like how he struck out right there. I think I like that kid." Never. never.
the coaches that I work with, I'd say the last year, seem to they're starting to implement a mix of the analytics and some of the practical old school, because there's a lot of old school stuff that isn't practical, okay, but
Mhm.
there's some stuff that is practical. You know what I mean? Going to a Phillies game in the 90s, even when the Phillies were bad, the Phillies still scored runs. You know what I mean? We just couldn't pitch.
Yeah,
But
true.
you knew that when you had like a Doug Glanville, that if he got on base, there was a chance he was going to steal second. You
Mhm.
knew that,
And
uh,
that and that was fun.
and that was fun. It was fun to watch because it was like it forced you to be in tune to the game. But I think that there's so many distractions, between the food and the games and stuff like that.
Food is great.
The food
Food
is
at a baseball game,
it,
professional baseball game is great.
it is great. It is great.
So is the beer.
Um,
But
but there's just so many distractions that could you imagine, like, they're not talking about changing the game of chess. Could you imagine, like, somebody just throwing cracker jacks, I got hot peanut, and during a chess match. You know what I'm saying? It's about the nature of the game. Like, same thing with baseball. Like baseball, there's certain nuances. They want to add a pitch clock, which is what it's 14 seconds with nobody on, and 19 seconds with runners on.
yeah.
Okay, I've always been a big proponent. You want to speed up the games, call strikes. When you call strikes, there's more swings.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I just feel as though, and even that may only save you like 15, 20 minutes.
Let me ask you a question, Miguel.
Sure.
And we've had this, and this is not scripted. Most of our show isn't, but Why does the game of softball, and I'm talking college softball, professional softball, why does that game move faster than baseball? I mean, it's obvious there's more hits, right?
Hmm.
Um, the plate is the same size. Are they just throwing more balls over the plate? Are they not trying to get people to swing and miss in softball? Is it a game where you hit the ball like you're supposed to hit the ball, and that's how we get the outs? Or
I want to say yeah because I mean you don't see from the games that I've seen, they're intense, but they're so fast paced. Like they move, they work quick.
yeah,
Um, and I believe that the pitchers are trained to pitch to contact. But when you see the really good pitchers that really sling,
hmm
they're unhittable.
hmm
You know what I mean? Again, more strikes. So it's like you don't see you don't see that a lot at college baseball. You see more of the intensity, but it's still a little slower than college softball, but definitely quicker than the big leagues.
hmm
You know what I mean? Because they're taught to work quick, and I think too with college baseball, you see the systems in place where you now that you see like all these bands that all the pitchers wear that they're
hmm
allowed to wear at the college level. So you pretty much have a pitching coach or the manager calling pitches. So everybody's just like, all right, next pitch is bam, tuning in. Okay, everybody got it. Then they go. So everything's like rapid fire. And I think what actually may help, especially in the future, is the use of technology because I think we talked about it a little bit last week with Vanderbilt using this watch system where all the players have a watch and a digit is tapped in or typed into the mechanism on their wrist, and they just look at the watch and then they know what's coming up next. That I think is going to help with pace of play, and I think baseball out of all the sports has been the slowest to accept the technologies because like when you look at football, basketball, it's like all the technologies that they're incorporating is designed to speed up the game, especially in those moments where replay is needed.
hmm
But I think it's way past time to get away from the traditional catcher throwing down the signs and then three coaches throwing signs and stuff like that. Just use the technology, speed it up.
yeah. I'm not against that.
Hmm.
Um, I know I'm more of a purist than most. Um, but I'm not against the technology coming in. I'm not against things that don't really change the game. Like that doesn't change the
It
game.
doesn't, right? It just makes it a little quicker.
I'm against the things like they thought about moving the pitcher's mound back, the
Oh
the pit, the
yeah,
pitcher's plate, and we talk about moving that back. Um, some of the things that they did change, which I thought was kind of weird. They changed the size of the bases, made them bigger.
I do agree with that.
That's strange to me.
Well, I agree with it's that's strictly safety. Because even like how many times have you seen a play, ground ball, run to first, it's a bang bang play, and you see the first baseman get spiked.
Right. Well,
You
you
know,
can avoid that with what they do in softball, and they have that extra
that orange
base.
base, yeah.
Yeah, which that's weird, but you can avoid that. Like I had to teach a kid today where to stand on first base so he doesn't get spiked.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So I mean, the funny thing, like, okay, they voted they agreed to make the bases bigger, but they didn't want that extra little base on the side, so they decided against that. And I was in a conversation, and I know it's very minimal, right? It's probably it might be minimal, but I think you'll understand where I'm going with this.
Mhm.
I feel like with the bases being bigger, now we're talking the bases are technically 6 inches closer to each other.
Uh-huh.
So now we're talking about we went from 90 feet to 89 and a half feet.
You're right.
Does that change the amount? does that change your close plays are now they're safe now? Like,
Yeah.
do you foresee that change making a difference in the game?
When you couple that with no more shifts, you know how many infield singles now are going to be generated from that? Absolutely.
Infield
Um,
singles are exciting.
right, but I'm saying there's going to be more now. They're going to be more definitive save calls. I think, so couple that with no shift. You know, I don't know. I have a feeling they may make stealing illegal too, because
You think
I don't
so?
know. No, I mean they shouldn't. They
I'm
shouldn't.
gonna
It's
say,
an
wait a
off.
minute, when have you heard?
Nah, I'm just thinking about the random goofiness of the. I'm really upset about the shift,
Yeah,
but
I'm not a big fan of what they decided to do there.
mm,
Actually, Ryan R. Dot actually mentioned it last week about what a possibility was, and that ended up coming true.
I hope that I hope they do modify it to that extent.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But
Well, I mean that's what they did basically.
yeah, I guess there has to be. I want to read up on the exact Like, can I have
Here's the other thing about it though. So you have to have two on each side. So you already have two on each side, right?
right?
So basically you can't really shift with the infielders. But um you also cannot have and I want you to talk about this a little bit because you may not have ever been able to do it technically, but you also your infielders also have to be in the infield in the dirt.
Yeah, I mean you can play the edge of the grass, that cutout, but nothing beats having that second base. Like in that picture, you had Altuve, who's normally at second. He's literally it's almost like almost like the triangle defense that the Bulls used to play. So you literally have like was it one, two, three, five people on one side.
Right. Yeah.
I just don't
The whole
even
infield was on the one side.
just I just think there's an opportunity missed by baseball players in this whole thing. Like they could have been raking and
Yes.
at this. They just refuse to do it.
I think I'm going to tweet that. There is I'm going to give you your credit on it. But I'm going to tweet that there is an opportunity missed by these baseball players by putting in that shift rule.
Right.
I want to move forward
Yep.
because of course. Well, I'll mention this because it happened. So Kyle Schwarber to the Phillies, 4 years, 79 million. Um, Good or bad? Obvious, right?
I mean, I like it. I don't care too much for the low batting average and the strikeouts, although OPS was fairly good. It does give help in the lineup for Harper. I just hope they don't bat him like lead off. I just have this thing about players that and I get some of the strategy, towards the later innings, he'll have like another opportunity in like the ninth or tenth or whatever. You know, there has to be a way to get runners on base and then have Harper and Schwarber drive them in. I was hoping for them to squeeze in Chris Bryant, but he signed with Colorado about 2 hours ago for 7 years at
Great
182 million.
move for him. I don't
You know,
see. I don't see how Colorado doesn't sound like everybody.
I think Chris Bryant with the air in Colorado, he's going to hit 62 home runs at home.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's why it's a great move for him, and I don't understand why more baseball players don't want to sign in Colorado.
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like that would be the place to go. Like, can you imagine if Bryce went to Colorado, the way he hits the ball?
Yeah, that would be insane. But at the same time, like Chris Bryant said, he didn't want to play in Philadelphia. He probably would have, you know, it probably would. It just wouldn't have worked out for him. So,
Well, he's definitely getting booed when he gets it. And once you say you don't want to be it, like of any city, this one is extremely sensitive
hmm
of not being liked, right?
hmm
Like Jason Kelsey sung the song "No One Likes Us and We Don't Care,"
hmm
and it's true.
right,
But when we know that you don't like us, we don't like you tenfold
Right.
unless you become one of us. Forget it. Like
Right.
Ben Simmons, we all saw what happened there. Who else didn't want to be here? Um, who wanted?
Carson Wentz.
Did he not want to be here?
Yeah, he did. So there was a story that actually came out yesterday because there was a rumor that he had an altercation during the Super Bowl year because he was actually upset at the Eagles' success without him.
Really?
And
I find that amazing.
so keep in mind that was his second year in the NFL, right?
Was it his second or his third?
Uh,
I feel like it was his third.
no, it was a second because the first year he broke his ribs in training camp, but only missed like the last preseason game. Well, he missed the preseason, and they came out and they went 3-0, and then they lost like 4 in a row. And then the next year was the Super Bowl year, so it was actually like
His
his
rookie
second
year
year.
was the year they beat Pittsburgh on that play to Sproles.
Yeah,
That was his okay.
yeah, that was rookie year. So speaking of which, that was the actual person that he that confronted him was
Right. I
Sproles.
did hear about that. And Sproles did come out and said some things. And
Right.
yeah, I did hear about that.
Uh, because I think there was even something said like during one of the playoff games, is like, I can't stand here and watch this, something to that effect. And Sproles was just like, yo, you need to buck up, like, and it got heated and allegedly it got physical. And it's like,
And it's crazy because he comes off as such a nice guy. Like when in press conferences, interview, he comes off as such a nice guy. Like you would like if you hear he got into an altercation, yeah, okay, who was messing? Who was doing something to him?
right, but if you really listen to those press conferences, anytime a reporter come out and said, well, what about that throw, or you kind of did this, he always flip of a switch. He'll say, well, this was a team effort, this was a team loss, blah 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 blah. So he would always come up just short of accepting responsibility for his particular actions. And it was more notable after the Super Bowl year, and everybody was like, you're saying the same things over and over, but you're the one that threw that interception. It wasn't, Alshon Jeffrey. So it was like you started picking up on those things. And it wound up being his demise. So for him to be able to get, I still think he got Doug Peterson fired, and for them to do that and it still not be good enough for him, and then for him to go to a coach that allegedly he had great rapport with in Indianapolis,
Now
and it
that's the telling part.
that's the telling part. Matter of fact, I think I read a story where Frank Reich actually apologized to the owner of the
He did,
Colts.
yeah. I saw that.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
Which
you
means
know,
Frank Wright didn't know what
the
he was
extent of it, yeah, because he left right after the Super Bowl year, so he didn't
right.
really see the manifestation of that. And I've even read a story where he, because of where he comes from, that he doesn't know how to work with other people.
Mm.
So I don't know what North Dakota's like. I don't know what that type of lifestyle is,
Is he
but
actually from North Dakota?
I believe so.
I'll look it up I'll look it up real quick just to see if he's actually from North Dakota. But right now he's a Washington Commander now. So
Yeah, so somebody showed a picture, a meme with him in the locker room with the Commanders ball jacket. They said
uh,
he looks like a 1980s high school student trying to figure out if he's going to major in college.
he was actually born in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, well, that answers everything.
He was born in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hold on, let me see. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina, moved to North Dakota with his family at the age of 3. So he doesn't know North
So
Carolina.
he's from North Dakota.
He's from North Dakota.
Yeah.
He went to what did he say? He played quarterback and D back. He was a defensive back and quarterback for his high school team. Played basketball and baseball, and Yeah, there you go. He was. How about this? Didn't know this about him. He was a valedictorian. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
Didn't know that. Valedictorian. So yeah, I don't know what life is like in North Dakota. I can only imagine. I can't say I ever wish to go there because I don't know what I would go for. But either way, I mean, you kind of look at a parallel between him and Ben Simmons in the
Yeah.
fact that I almost bet you neither one of them really was kind of held responsible for their own failures.
Hmm.
I truly believe that because it sounds like is when you get to the point where you're going to criticize him, he shuts it off.
Yeah.
He shuts it off. He's not buying. He's not listening to it. Um, Constructive criticism is a thing. The you know I'm not talking about just harping on. I'm talking about constructive criticism.
And
Trying
they
to
and that's where him and Ben Simmons were always similar. They always said, "This is me. You have to accept it. This is how I play." They both said the same thing.
they're cut from
Uh,
the same cloth.
yeah,
Cut from the same cloth. Let's move forward a little bit. Talk about some football. Some things in football. We're in a legal tampering period.
I love
Which
that
really, I
term.
mean, what does that really mean? Like, I know what it really means, but
It means I can sign your players, but we have to wait a week
it's,
officially to sign your players.
it's a legal period where you can actually go and talk to people. That's what it is. Um, Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
He looks like he is being. He has some suitors,
Yeah, I think last it looks like it's coming down to the Saints in Carolina.
and well, Atlanta's in there too.
Yeah, and I
You don't
think
think
they're
that's going to happen?
Atlanta was looking at who's the guy from Cleveland?
Baker Mayfield.
No, the wide receiver that they said they're
Oh,
trying to talk
Landry.
Landry, yeah.
Yeah,
Allegedly they're talking to him to see if he, I don't know if he has a no trade, but I know he wants to. They want him there if, especially if they can get Deshaun Watson.
and they also the Browns granted him permission to seek a
The
trade too.
Sega trade, right?
Which I find that weird. I mean, I'm not a follower of the Cleveland Browns, but I find it are they in rebuilding mode now already?
And well, it's funny because Baker Mayfield, you saw what he posted the other day.
I saw no, I didn't see what he posted, but I did see that um he posted something about like a thank you to the fans or something.
Right. So he's still contracted with the Cleveland Browns. He has not been traded. The only rumor is that they're maybe in the mix for Deshaun Watson, but he posted the goodbye letter before being traded.
Oh, it was a goodbye letter.
So it was kind of, well, not, it wasn't, it sounded like a goodbye later. It was like you said, the thank you. It's been a wonderful, X amount of years. We try to do this, we try to do that. So, I just want to say I love you, da 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 da. So it was just short of a goodbye letter. So it was like,
You know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like he was trying to get in front of a situation to me. What do
right,
I mean by that? They know that they're talking about trying to get, trying to make some moves.
right.
And he probably caught heed of he could be traded, he could be out of there. And I think that move was to ingratiate himself even more with the fan base so they can be pissed off if he ends up getting moved to another city outside of him moving himself to another city. That's what I think that was. And then I think in different ways, but what
No,
what
and
what are your thoughts on that?
it makes sense, but I just think it's too early.
Too early?
It's too soon. It's too early because now it creates that. Well, if that's how you really feel, then maybe we should trade you. So he's trying to play it one way, but he could get it could turn around and bite him in the butt. I think.
Okay, the Sean Watson situation. Um, and I'm looking at the notes here. You say the double standard for crimes of physical abuse and gambling.
versus
You're talking about Calvin Ridley. You got Calvin Ridley in here, and versus women that abuse people. We touched upon it briefly last week, and Calvin Ridley, correct me if I'm wrong, is suspended for an entire season, right?
correct.
For gambling.
Right,
Whereas,
$1,500 for on FanDuel, and he probably was able to bet in the same stadium that he plays in.
probably. Now, that being the case, you're talking about somebody that what up, my man? My people hit me up on IG. What's going on? You're talking about people that do crimes to women, and they don't get their punishments aren't as hard. Like Calvin Ridley gambled his own money, didn't hurt a soul. Nobody's going to come back to Calvin Ridley and say, I can't believe you did that to me. I want to sue you or whatever, however that works. Now, these other people we're talking about, they've done stuff to women. So we're talking like a Ben Roethlisberger. Um, what's my man that went to Rutgers that played for Baltimore? The running back.
Ray Rice.
Ray Rice. You got countless, right? I'm not even going to go down the line. But those punishments, maybe Ray Rice's. Actually, no. Let's be honest. Let's keep it a buck here. Ray Rice's punishment was not that strong. It was like 3 games, if I remember correctly, until the video came out.
It was until the video came out, right? And even with that, it was alleged that he lied to Goodell, and that's the reason why they, put the hammer down in that respect. But even that being said, it's still kind of it's still kind of battle of integrity of the game versus integrity. Period.
Okay.
It's like we care more about making sure that no one's cheating and stuff like that. But then you have Spygate with the video, and you destroy that. Like who destroys their own evidence? But they're protecting the game. But when it comes to the individual players, it's almost like, well, it's okay for them to hurt themselves or to do bad to themselves, even each other. So we'll give them a slap on the wrist for a couple games. But we can't have betting on the game of football, even though we're throwing FanDuel and all that in front of you. And you can gamble damn near on, go to the second floor of the stadium and you can go in there and place your bet. You can, you know,
Now,
there's too many opportunities.
I have my own thoughts about gambling in sports. I believe they should be allowed to gamble. Right? They want to bet on stuff. If they want to bet on themselves, I think they should. Now, I think there should be some restrictions on it. I don't believe that they should be able to bet on a money line bet. I'm sorry, on a spread. They should only be able to bet on the money line. Okay? And they can only bet for their team. They can't bet against their own team. If it comes out that you bet against your own team, now we have a problem. If you bet on when you bet on a money line on a spread, now you can kind of, in a sense, you can manipulate that. Right? You can manipulate that. You could be, let's say, you bet against your team. You got your team going to win, but if you score a touchdown here on this next possession, your team covers. So you bet against your team to cover, right? And then you get a ball thrown to you in the end zone, and then you drop it. So that's where we have the problem. You drop it on purpose because now you're protecting your pockets. Your team already won. You're protecting your pockets. That's where I can see this, the gambling thing getting shaky. So you got to put some type of restrictions on it. Either have to put some restrictions on it, or you have to ban it like it is. I'm for the restrictions, but then you get into the slippery slope.
Yes, it's too. Think about it like this: like there should be no reason for any professional player to have to bet with the amount of money that they're making.
Right.
So that's not the issue. The issue is for those degenerate, uncontrollable gamblers
Mhm.
That's where you're gonna run into, because then it'll be all right. I'm gonna bet on myself, and then I'm gonna keep losing. So it's like, all right, wait a minute. It's almost like point shaving in basketball. It's like, all right, well, let me do just enough to make it look good, and then I'll fake a hamstring injury or whatever. Yeah, it's too.
Can I go on record?
Uh-oh.
Can I go on record off the record?
You can go off on the record.
I I don't I see the problem, but I don't see a problem with point shaving. And here's why. Point shaving is Vegas's problem, not the league's problem, in my opinion. The league should not care whether or not you're shaving points unless they have some type of stake in Vegas.
Mm.
What would the league care if you're shaving points? Why should they care? Now, if you're losing on purpose and all that, that's one thing. But point shaving has on to in my experience only has to do with betting, with gambling.
Mm.
So if I'm out here and I'm playing basketball and I'm point shaving, my team wins, but I'm point shaving to win by 8 instead of 10.
Mm.
The league, that's not the league's problem.
But don't you think over the course of time, when you're looking at an event, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, "Wow, no, they're not really giving max effort. So why am I gonna?" It's almost like you remember growing up, and it kind of segues to wrestling. Um, you knew wrestling was real growing up, right? You knew it. You knew Hulk Hogan was gonna be
You said
Hercules.
rigged.
You knew
You said rigged or real?
real.
Okay.
and,
Your
and,
thought
and
process when you were young, it was all
right. And even when the guy from ABC News came in and did a story and actually challenged the wrestler backstage, and it was Dr. D. David Schultz, and he was like, is wrestling fake? And he's like, you want to see you want to see a fake open hand slap? And he slapped him so hard that his hair was still on camera as he was. I'll show you the video to it, but
well,
everybody thought.
have you ever seen the show? What's it called? Little Rock or something?
I, I saw like one of the first couple episodes, but I haven't really stayed with it.
So I watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
His family, which his whole family is
Those whole
wrestling
family,
family.
yeah.
He said something about wrestling being fake, and they almost killed him.
Yep.
They were ready to kill him for saying wrestling was fake.
Yep.
And it's not. How can I say this? Like people, you got to be careful how you say it, and I like to be accurate when I say it at the same time.
Right.
Wrestling is scripted. It's not rigged, it's scripted. You don't rig something that's scripted. That's like saying your favorite character dying in the movie was rigged. No, it was scripted that way.
Scripted. Right.
The fighting, the action is also scripted. Some of it is real, but they know how to make it not affect them to the point that they make it look like how it affects them.
They're basically glorified stuntmen that have catchphrases.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But even so, you take that model, and then all of a sudden, in the late like '90s or late '80s, early '90s, it started. And Vince McMahon did this, and he's very, very. He did this on purpose for a couple of legal reasons. He started to say, "All right, this is wrestling entertainment."
Right.
You
Yes,
dig
he
what I'm
did.
saying? So that took away, because believe it or not, every fighting bout had to be sanctioned by the state's
By the
fighting
commission.
commission.
Yep.
Right. So when he actually fought in court to remove wrestling as a sport, and actually battle for it to be listed as sports entertainment. So then in the 90s, he didn't have to report to a athletic commission in any state. and he celebrated that, and everybody's like, well, what does that mean? And then all of a sudden, you see in the '90s now, you see all the there's more talk than wrestling. You see all the funny outfits and stuff like that. I think with gambling, if you do just leave gambling up to whatever, sports may turn into that because now it's like, well, I'm making X amount of money, but now I'm going to be an athletic entertainer instead of an athlete. So I think that just opens that Pandora's box of, well, in like 5 years, they'll say, okay, yeah, it is scripted. The Super Bowls are all scripted, just like the halftime show. It's too close. It's too close to home.
Well, with all that being said, we want to say, as you can see in Miguel's background there, rest in peace to Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon, one of my favorite all-time wrestlers. To be honest with you, when he came on the scene, I just thought he was dope. Like he was just like at a time when a lot of the wrestlers that would come on the scene were like kind of in the W at the time WWF. They were goofy. Right? You had like Doink the Clown.
Yeah.
You had the Repo Man.
Hmm.
You had the Berserker. You had the Gobbledygooker. Like you had all these weirdo stuff going on. Razor Ramon came in as the bad guy, and you just really thought like this dude is just a tough guy.
I was strongly disappointed to find out he was not even close to Latino. He's like from Laredo, Texas.
Yo, how about listen? How about that? So he was supposed to be like Cuban or something, right?
Yeah.
And like I was just thinking before the show started, like how do you even approach somebody? Maybe I'm thinking with my 2022 mind, but how do you even approach somebody?
But so Scott, there's a video out. Scott Hall actually. So what happens is when a wrestler joins like a federation, they actually have a character meetings. They talk about character development and all that. And he said like you don't have like you need to mix up like a Cardamom with like the dude from Scarface, right?
Mm.
But you need to make him kind of cool, tall and whatnot. And then he started like acting it out, and Mr. McMahon's like, "Yeah, that's it. We'll call you Razor Ramon." And it's funny because the first video he did, he's driving a '70s Cadillac with the roof down, and he has the dice on the dashboard, and I
Mm.
think it has like shag carpeting with
Yep.
like leopard print.
I remember it.
And he's like, "Hey yo, it's the bad guy." And I
Yeah.
was like, "I don't think he's all the way Latino with the toothpick."
But
Um,
he really got into that character.
yeah,
And then when he became Scott Hall, it was like Scott Hall.
he was basically Scott Hall was Razor Ramon without the accent.
Yes, he was because he was still the bad guy.
He was still the bad
He
guy.
was still the
And
bad guy. Rest in peace to Razor Ramon, man.
yeah,
One of my favorite all time wrestlers. Like I said, when he came on the scene, it was something. I don't want to say it was something we hadn't seen before, but it was definitely a a trigger point as to going into the next generation or the next level of wrestling. It was Razor Ramon. You didn't know he wasn't a character
right.
per se, not like the Repo Man or the Godfather or whatever the case may be. He was Razor Ramon, and his I used to do the Razor's Edge. I used to do that finishing move to my
Yeah,
all the time. Like that was like the easiest one to do. Just put him up, ha ha, hold him up,
yeah.
and just drop him down. I ain't know I could have killed him, but we had fun doing it.
And historically, he was actually part of the very first ladder match.
He was
It was
against Shawn
Shawn
Michaels.
Michaels. It was
Right,
the
right.
very first ever ladder match. And I
Absolutely.
saw I think it was 93, 94. It was my first WWF event, and it was a house show at the Spectrum.
I remember
And
those.
he fought Bob Backlund when Bob Backlund turned when I think Scott Hall turned face and Bob Backlund was a heel.
Uh-huh.
And Bob Backlund was like, stammering or whatever. He was like avoiding fighting him. And then Razor Ramon, he's like, "Hey man, don't sing it, bring it." And the crowd went nuts. And I remember because we were trying to save up money to go to this event. So me and I think my middle brother, um, we couldn't afford a pair of the. You remember those Diesel gloves, the gloves that Diesel used to wear, Kevin
Yeah,
Nash.
yeah.
So we couldn't afford each individual pair. And I was like, "Are you left-handed or right-handed?" He's like, "I'm left-handed." All right, I'll take the right-hand glove. You take the left-hand glove. So and I think we had to share like a drink and we bought like a hot dog. But it was
That's
worth
how you
the.
do it.
That's how you do it, man.
That's how you do it right there. Rest
Yep.
in peace to Razor Ramon.
To the bad guy.
Who is the greatest wrestler to you? And
See,
and in your answer, explain why.
so I'm an '80s baby, and the first thing that I was exposed to was the Rock and Wrestling Connection, WWF, 1985.
Okay.
Because Vince McMahon did something smart, he decided to mix wrestling with MTV. So it was like Cyndi Lauper. Cyndi Lauper was like the big star that kind of connected everything together. So of course you had Hulk Hogan, then you had the cartoon show. Um,
The cartoon show was dope.
it was the WWF All Stars, yeah. Even though everybody had like terrible, I think Andre the Giant, they made him like, oh, he talk like this. Um, but when I look back at everything, like I grew up with Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. Um, but from a physical technician standpoint, and even Hulk Hogan admits this today, I'd have to say Ric Flair. Um, from a couple of different standpoints, he was a great technician. Most of his matches averaged an hour, and we're talking like early to mid 80s. Hulk Hogan, when he won the championship, he beat Iron Sheik in 5 minutes and 12 seconds. But believe it or not, Hulk Hogan was really an underrated wrestler. He only fought short matches in America because that's what we wanted. We wanted power, fast, Hulk up and end it. But
Okay.
he actually fought a lot in Japan, and he actually is when tasked to do it, he's actually pretty good technically.
Really?
If you look up like a Hulk Hogan in Japan, like 1985 and whatnot, he's doing arm bars. He's like doing like fly kicks. Like he was really athletic for a big man.
And I remember seeing Hulk Hogan in like the wrestling magazines and fighting in Japan and doing the flying leg, all the things that you didn't see him doing in the
Mhm.
United States. And I just thought, like, who's this? How come we don't see him do this anywhere else?
There's a match. It was Hulk Hogan versus Don Morocco at Madison Square Garden. It
Uh-huh.
was like 25 minutes, but he was doing all that technical stuff. But I think it was one of those matches like they were trying to see how the crowd would react. And about the 10-minute mark, the crowd just started to kind of like, they didn't boo like they would today. They would just be like,
They
and then
got
I think
bored with it.
they were just like kind of bored with it. And then he started hulking up, and then he did like 5 moves, and then that was it. And then they popped.
Well, let's be honest. So this is, I think, the fatal flaw. No, I shouldn't say that because that's a lie. Um, but this is part of the reason like wrestling isn't interesting to me anymore. Besides like most of the obvious stuff. When we came up, '80s babies, the big bulky dudes, the Hulk Hogan's, the Ultimate Warriors, the Yokozunas, the Big John Studs, they fought for the world title,
Yeah.
the big championship,
Mhm.
right? The big bulky dudes. The Intercontinental title was Ric Flair. I mean, sorry, not Ric Flair. Mr. Perfect, Razor
Macho
Ramon,
Man, yeah.
Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels,
Mhm.
the technical guys. And once they kind of merged the whole technical guy and the big bulky guy, like that's where and now they kind of blurred the lines of the championship.
Mhm.
That's where I kind of lost interest.
Yeah, it was, and but you,
Because
but
in
you,
my mind, Hulk Hogan, I mean, Bret Hart doesn't beat a Hulk Hogan.
right,
You
but
understand what I'm saying?
but what happened was in 92, 93. Remember, there was that steroid trial where
Hmm.
Vince McMahon was actually sued um, for allegedly distributing illegal steroids. Because that's around the time where I think America started to actually ban steroid use for any athlete.
Okay.
So you start to see that change from the Hulk Hogan's, Yokozunas to the Bret Harts to the Shawn Michaels to the more technical matches. Then you have like Iron Man matches and stuff like that that Hulk Hogan probably wouldn't have been able to do.
Right.
Um, but the other thing too is, because now that we know that wrestling is scripted, to see like I think Ric Flair was like a 13-time world champion.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
It,
Something.
but in order to do that, that means you actually have to knowingly like they call it putting somebody over, so that he knowingly
Hmm.
let Ricky the Dragon Steamboat win a title,
Hmm.
Dusty Rhodes win a title, Sting, you know,
Because they all knew in the long run it made for a better product.
right.
Whereas Hulk Hogan, from what I hear from circles, was not really willing to do that.
Right. And again, it does depend on who you talk to. But you know what's funny? Hulk Hogan actually credits Scott Hall for resurrecting the last part of his career. Because it
Oh,
was Scott
NWO. Yeah.
NWO. It was Scott Hall that was he said, I think they were in a production meeting. Scott Hall's like, hey, why don't you be a bad guy?
Right.
He's like, and
Because he
he
had
even
been a
said
bad guy since like the 70s.
he actually planned out like 4 years. He's like, listen, you turn bad, me and Kevin will handle like the front stuff. We make sure that you don't get touched. And then when you do get touched, we just come in and beat everybody else. Like he planned it out for like 4 or 5 years. So he was actually very smart in that because WCW was number one for like 3 years.
The Monday Nitro.
Monday Nitro, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, rest in peace to Razor Ramon, aka Scott Hall, or Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon.
Who's not Latino.
You know what? The day before he passed, I saw that he was on life support, and I was just like, "Damn!"
Yeah.
Like because of complications, blood clots from a hip surgery he had.
Yep.
And then the next day, it came out that he had passed. I was just like, "Man, damn!" Like, wow.
Yeah.
When you see, I can't call him a hero of mine, but somebody I enjoyed watching on TV
Yeah.
is going earlier than expected. He goes in for surgery and then he doesn't make it out. Tough. Right now it's about that time for us for Miguel to stump me, which he usually does. But I also have now game time for Miguel too. And Miguel, I will pick a card for you, but I'll give you some categories.
Okay.
So you can pick, of course, any of the four sports that the four majors: basketball, baseball, football, or hockey. But some of your other topics or categories are logos and mascots and as seen on TV. So
Oh God.
I will allow you to take a look. I mean, not take a look, but select a category and I will give you a question.
Let's do as seen on TV sounds intriguing.
As seen on TV. Let me find one of them. Here we go. I need to like put these. I need to put these in like some type of order here. I shuffled them up for us last week, and I never. Actually, it's not called as seen on TV. It's called seen on screen, but same thing.
Seriously? That changes the whole focus. It's
Yeah,
got
messed
seen
it up.
on screen?
Yeah, seen on screen.
Like in a movie?
Yes. Do
That's
you want to change?
completely different. That's completely different.
Do you
I'll,
want to
I'll,
change?
I'll still take it. I'll take it.
All right. I think I gave you this one last week. Actually, no, I didn't, but I thought about it. This one I think you'll get because you're a baseball guy. I think you'll get this one. What is the nickname of Kevin Costner's character, a veteran minor league catcher in Bull Durham?
Oh God.
Multiple choice here. I can. Do you want the multiple choice?
Yeah.
So your three multiple choices are Bull, Sweep, and Crash.
Crash.
That is correct. Crash is
And
correct.
I should have I went against my own advice. I had it in my heart. I should have just said it initially. I didn't
See,
need the extra
see?
guesses.
Got to practice what you preach here. Now,
Yes, sir.
let's see what you got here for me. Rookie of the Year, Home Run Derby champ, two-time Silver Slugger, 8-time All-Star, and a 3-time World Series champ. And I'm going to assume. Oh, just give me the time span of career. About
Mid 80s to late 90s.
and 3-time World Series. So we're looking at. Am I looking at? I don't think that's the Mets, is it?
It is the Mets.
So that's the Mets. Is that the Rays?
Mets and the Dodgers.
Mets, Dodgers. Is that it? Those are the two teams?
Yankees.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. The last two are Yankees, right?
Yeah.
And is that Orioles too?
I think that's actually Giants because I forgot about that number. But I want to say that's the Giants. Let me confirm.
Well, I haven't. I'm stumped here. What position did he play?
Outfielder.
Oh, wow, I'm stumped here. Completely stumped. What team was he on? Do you know what team he was on when he won when he won the home run derby? Was he very tall?
Yes.
I think I know who it is. I can't think of his name.
Say it.
I can't think of the name. It's a white guy, right?
Of course not.
Not a white guy. I'm thinking of the tall white guy that O'Neal. I was thinking O'Neal.
Oh, Paul
I
O'Neill.
was thinking Paul O'Neal.
Good guess. In the words of the great Richie Ashburn, great answer. Great answer. Wrong, however.
Remind me to tell you what I saw in Wheel of Fortune today.
God.
What's the nationality?
He is of color.
And he played for the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers,
And the Giants.
and the Giants. And I'm assuming the World Series were with the Yankees. No,
One
if
of,
it's late '80s, no. I mean late '90s, no.
one of those championships was with.
The
Matter of
Yankees,
fact, two of those championships were with the Yankees.
and was one with the Dodgers.
No,
The other one was with the Mets.
correct. Very, very rare player to win a World Series with both New York teams.
Um, mm,
Oh, you're gonna punch yourself.
because I feel like I know who it is, but I can't think of the name. Um, Home Run Derby champ. Oh man, you got me. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Who is it? What position? Oh, you told me outfield, right?
Correct. He's named after a fruit.
Oh,
Daryl.
how did I forget Darryl Strawberry played for the Yankees?
Daryl. So he won the World Series in '86 in his second year as a Met, and then he won in '96 and '98 with the New York
I
Yankees.
feel like such a loser right now because I can remember on one of my baseball cards, growing up, they ask you your favorite player when they take your picture for the baseball card or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I can remember saying Darryl Strawberry was my favorite player at one time.
What's you should watch the 30 for 30.
I've seen it.
What you seen it with him and Doc? Yeah.
Doc and Darryl.
Yeah, that was
That was
pretty
great.
deep. It
That
was
might
great.
have been my first 30 for 30 I watched.
Yeah, it was really eye opening, and some parts sad, but you hear the redemption and all of it too, which was good.
Yeah, absolutely. But some of the stories that you heard were like he missed the parade because he was like on a bender.
Yep,
Like
he
that's
was on a
crazy.
he was on a bender in Brooklyn, I believe, Brooklyn or Queens.
And one of them, I don't remember if it was Doc Gooden or Darryl Strawberry. They like had to pull him out of like a crack house.
That was Doc. That was Doc Gooden.
Yo, how are you $1 million athlete and they pulling you out of a crack house?
Well, remember he said they tapped him. They was like, "Yo, the parade's going on." He was like, "Oh no, that's tomorrow." He was watching it on TV.
Man.
Yeah.
Whew. Well, there you go. You stumped me again. I'm so mad about that. You're right. I am mad about that. I didn't even think my mind just didn't even take me there.
Yeah, this is I think the second most mad you've been. I think the other one was
I don't remember.
was somebody that I think you were really was it Vernon Maxwell you were upset at?
I think I was mad about Vernon Maxwell. No, I think I guessed Vernon Maxwell. I guessed Vernon Maxwell.
Was it Theo Ratliff?
I think it was Theo Ratliff.
Theo Ratliff. You're like,
Yeah.
oh.
And I think I was mad about there was another one. I just had it in my head and lost it that fast. Juan Pierre. Did I guess
No,
Juan?
you got Juan
I
Pierre.
got Juan Pierre. Okay.
Because the Marlins and the Phillies, I think
That would give
you made that
away for
connection.
me.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, with all that being said, we're going to close out the show. We want to thank all y'all for checking out the Check Swing podcast. For myself and my man saying everybody on the IG live. Appreciate y'all. I'm gonna close that out right now. Appreciate y'all checking that out. But with all that being said, we want to thank y'all for checking out the Check Swing podcast. We will be with you next week. And that's about it. Any last words before I get out of here?
Only final words I have is I know where everybody can get gas for $1.39.
And where is that?
Taco Bell.
Yeah, I'm about to use that one. I like that. I like that. Well, with all that being said, we thank y'all for checking us out. We're out of here on the Check Swing podcast. We will check y'all out next week. We appreciate y'all. Peace.
Sweet.